Hello, everybody. Welcome to night one of SummerSlam. Brought to you by Wingstop and a bunch of other captains,
Street Fighter.
General, Street Fighter. Oh, we'll talk about Street Fighter. I try to avoid these sponsors whenever possible, but sometimes you just can't. They've found a way to integrate Street Fighter. I think we're going to be seeing a lot of Street Fighter until this movie comes out.
Potentially.
Yeah.
October.
Yeah. I wish they were this bullish on Dave Bautista doing a Marvel film. It's like Guardians of the Galaxy. It might bomb.
If they could have gone back, I wonder. Well, it's not really their decision, is it? I mean, it's
not. I mean, this is
it's whether the studio decides to spend the money.
But here we are. We're not going to talk about Dave Bautista's film career. We're instead going to be talking about many things coming out of night one of SummerSlam at US Bank Stadium, Minneapolis, Minnesota. Folks, there is no other way to watch these shows than by starting like 45 minutes late.
Oh, yeah. Even later.
It's a brisk watch if you are not watching it live. Like, I'm not going to have any complaints about downtime between matches because you just create that buffer for yourself, and done by, 9 o'clock, basically,
Yep.
This show was over with.
Mhm.
Way started late. He was done the show in like 20 minutes.
Like 2 hours.
2
You could
hours.
watch this. Yeah.
We were going to go live like in a half an hour from now. He was like, I don't need that time. Let's just go. Let's just go. I want to talk about
I guess like in the
Oba.
past, like last year, was this a 3-hour show? It felt like it might have been longer than that.
I mean, I feel like 3.5 is sort of the
Just
range.
3 hours flat.
Yeah, like even WrestleMania, I think like, they sometimes flirt with 4 per night, but not even. So
Yeah.
It's certainly very, very different from our AEW counterparts. But here we are. Final number from WrestleTix for night one was 35,759. And yeah, we'll see what increase night two gets. They're up, I think, around 37-ish. So we'll see if there's any, if they're able to hit 40. It's certainly going to be a big step down from last year, but we are still talking TKO ticketed pricing at still lofty numbers. But
And an impressive sized crowd. I mean, 30-something thousand is very impressive and certainly sounded and looked impressive on camera.
it is, but it's all about margins, Way. And what were the margins scheduled for this show? Did we bank on a 45,000 per night house? And was that what we had budgeted for?
Right. Yeah.
This is how they think. Well, one of the first faces you would have seen on SummerSlam proper was Vaughn Evelyn. It's like Vaughn Evelyn. Boy, does she look familiar. That's because they ditched her last name. This is Vaughn Evelyn Levesque, the daughter of Paul and Stephanie Levesque, singing God Bless America. Not America the Beautiful, not the national anthem, but God Bless America. And I think she's the middle one, I think. Spoke at the Hall of Fame. So there you have it. The
Cool.
latest generation of McMahons to get screen time.
Very interesting. How did she do?
Did you not see this?
No, I mean, I was way behind, so I wasn't making time for any of this.
You didn't have time for God Bless America? I mean, it was
How was it?
I don't know. I posted this, and the comments were not kind to this, but I mean, I'm not going to. I couldn't sing. So.
Was it not like did she sing off like wrong badly or anything?
I mean, it was.
Or did she do
a
a
90-second song?
Okay job?
I didn't have any thoughts about this. I didn't think about it for 1 second as I was basically just typing. This is Paul and Stephanie's daughter, and that was.
She did a fine job then, right? Like not maybe nothing amazing, but like.
Yeah, she didn't bomb.
Par.
Yeah, it was just. It was just cool. That was it. This is the most discussion we're ever going to have about the.
Good for her.
Good for her. Congratulations. Yeah. Linda McMahon was also spotted. She was there. I saw her during the Punk Cody match. There she was, front row.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Had to see Cody and Phil up close and in person. Make sure that I don't know. Maybe wouldn't have been the night for Punk to wear his trans rights or human rights shirt.
Maybe not.
Way's just Way wants to move on to the show.
I don't know what to say about it. We know what we know what she is and who she's affiliated with, and yeah, she sucks.
I wasn't pushing you.
No, she does suck.
The opening video featured Justin, 25% or $25 tickets, Jefferson of the Minnesota Vikings, previewing all of the matches for us. And then we had Michael Cole and Wade Barrett on commentary for the first night. Liv Morgan and IYO SKY was kicking things off, Women's World Championship. And this was amazing, okay? Because they rattle off this stat that this is Liv Morgan's first title defense since beating Stephanie McMahon at WrestleMania in April. It's like, excuse me? I literally rewound this. I was like, I couldn't have heard that right. This is our first title defense since WrestleMania. And then looking up her cage match, dude, like, since March, like, she does not wrestle much. She has not had a match since Night of Champions in June. No matches to speak of. She did not wrestle a match in July. And it's like she's been involved in physical angles. So I don't think it's a case of, some minor injury or something like that. I think she's just, whatever reason, like they keep her out of the ring quite a bit. And I was stunned by this.
Yeah.
This is like 3 months after WrestleMania. She's finally getting around to defending this thing. I was like, and nobody noticed this. I never would have even thought of that until this was brought up on the broadcast.
It's been like a bit of discussion, in the lead up to this WrestleMania. In fact, like she's kind of poked fun at it herself on social media. So, I mean, I don't think it's of her choosing. It's a combination of factors. One, it's a very thin division on the Raw women's roster without Rhea, without Stephanie McMahon around. They haven't really gone around to, building any like compelling challengers for her. Secondly, she clearly is a lot more valuable as like a mouthpiece or at least like as a talker on most editions of the show. That's not to say she can't play that role plus also defend the championship, but her role principally on these shows is to carry forward any sort of Judgment Day storyline, Dominic Mysterio, Danhausen type of storyline, and less so about actually defending the championship. You also had the Queen of the Ring defenses in there, or matches, I should say. So none of that is an excuse. It's just to say, like, they probably see her value more so in talking rather than actually wrestling, which is, again, highly, I think, questionable about how you want to book a champion, but there is some maybe logic to that being an unfortunate fact.
This match also sponsored by, wouldn't you know it, Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm.
Our conviction as it applies to the industrial logic of this merger has been affirmed.
So great brand synergy here with performers
perfect.
and sponsors.
Mm-hmm.
You want to mention this off the top? They're seated front row all show long, facing the hard camera, was Chris Van Vliet. And I don't know if there's anything more to it, but I think in light of the bringing in of Busted Open Radio and Chris, like if you were to look at WWE and what areas of wrestling media they would want to secure, I think like Busted Open and Chris Van Vliet would be at the top. And we know that Chris Van Vliet, recently a guest on Stephanie McMahon's podcast, was featured at Fanatics Fest, and there he is front row. Granted, Nick Aldis was just on there, but they're incorporating his name, like listing him by name. And I mean, it certainly would make sense of this WWE radio initiative that, Chris Van Vliet would be someone that they are after. And I don't know how you couldn't have at least that thought by looking at these various examples and tonight as well.
Wouldn't surprise me. Certainly. Yeah. He gets like a lot of tremendous access, and I think he would have anyway, because I think he represents a great platform for any professional wrestler to have these interviews with. But I can also see WWE wanting him on the WWE network in some sort of official capacity. Yeah.
I think it's looking at these big like wrestling media outlets and making them WWE exclusive outlets.
Possibly. Yeah. I mean, we could be reading a whole lot into just,
we could sitting be, but it's just there has been multiple things here. And I'm just saying logically, as a follow-up, they're starting this radio thing. Like it would certainly make sense in that regard.
Yeah, which would likely mean the end of what Chris Van Vliet AEW or non-WWE interviews if that were to be the case.
I mean, it would. I mean, if he came into WWE, yes, that would absolutely mean that. That's
Right.
if he would make that decision. He does very well for himself. So I don't know, like what are you giving up versus what are you gaining from?
Yeah.
Anyway,
And we're way deep into just speculation.
We also had the return of the press conference tonight that we'll get to as well with Uncle Paul. So the match begins, and Io is yanked off the barricade by Liv. She kicks Sky in the ribs, and she does the Three Amigos, Liv does, to which Michael Cole says, paying homage, of course, in Minnesota to Eddie Guerrero. I was like, well, we're not in El Paso. We're not in Phoenix, where he was living. We are in Minnesota, the state where he was found in his hotel room, which is kind of, it was just kind of weird. The emphasis on Minnesota here. I was like, yeah, this is the only connection to the state he has is this is where he died the day of a TV taping.
Yeah. I wonder if he was making that connection or if he was just simply saying in Minnesota, Liv is doing an Eddie Guerrero.
She said paying homage, of course, in Minnesota to Eddie Guerrero. Like,
did he say, of course?
He said, of course, yes.
I mean, yeah, I guess distasteful. If certainly if that
I
was
don't think
the
I
case.
didn't even take it as distasteful. I just found it as like an odd way to put over the Three Amigos beyond just like an Eddie Guerrero mention. But anyway, Io rolls into a double stomp. Both are down, and Io then takes over. She really is getting the crowd going after doing her pose and a kip up. I thought. Well, let's continue on here. She really builds up for the bullet train attack, trying to get the audience going. Then Roxanne shows up, and when two people show up, you know what that means. One distracts the ref, the other attacks the target. And Io is slammed off of the top by Raquel with a choke slam. And then Io throws Liv onto both women on the floor and hits a moonsault to the floor, taking out Raquel and Roxanne, hits a one-woman Spanish fly off the top, but then misses with a follow-up bullet train attack. And we get multiple attempts at Oblivion by Liv. And then it's Io hitting one herself onto Liv for a 2 count. Liv avoids over the moonsault, hits the code breaker, and then it picks up at the end here with a German to Liv on the apron, the bullet train attack against the post, but in doing so, Io's knee is hurt. So naturally, to get the knee back in circulation, goes for over the moonsault, lands on the boots of Liv, and tries for yet another Oblivion, which Io blocks with a handstand, eats a code breaker, and then finally Liv hits a clean Oblivion to retain the title in 13 minutes and 35 seconds. I thought for like 3/4 of this match, it felt to me like instead of Liv wrestling up to Io's level, it was Io having to almost like wrestle down to Liv's that is just in this one gear. But like a lot of these WWE matches, they are so patterned to hit their big near falls at the end, and the crowd just goes, they really liven up for the big near fall cross up spots. You did the opposite of the Oblivion with Io, that they certainly got into the closing sequence here, but it did feel like for a large part of this match, I was just watching people on very different planes trying to meet in the middle.
I mean, I felt similar in that, like, up in, a good chunk of the match up until the run-in felt very standard. And, it wasn't bad, but it was nothing memorable. And I would suggest that was probably more, like, intentional just by their style book, rather than, like, one person, like, perhaps having to limit themselves for the other. Because, like, once they got through the run-ins, they really did turn things up. Io in particular, delivering a lot of the spectacular offense, moves we haven't really seen from her before, or at least in a very long time. And then the finish I thought were really executed and very exciting. So rather than maybe suggest that it was like Liv being incapable, like she was clearly capable by the end. So maybe it was just, the way they choose to design their matches.
Well, it's I don't know. I think for if you're gonna have one match a quarter, I'm going to have a high threshold of what we can expect. But maybe title defense number 2 at Survivor Series. We'll see what the improvement rate is.
I think I enjoyed this more than the Night of Champions match.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a match that is easily I can easily recollect in my memory bank from 2 months ago. But I'll take your word for it. If you enjoyed this one more, it was I did think like the closing minutes they certainly had the crowd. And
Yeah.
you know they had some good spots to at least the different setups for the Oblivion and then finally hitting it in the end. But I think you also bring up a point about Liv, like no challengers being presented for her. We're kind of in that place again at the moment that, especially on the Raw side, I mean, you're kind of back into this where she's a great mouthpiece, but she's also the women's champion on this brand, and that's kind of the focus here. And you do have to get some baby faces for her, and this kind of feels like Io's had her turn.
So was this always the plan, or was Rhea supposed to be Io's destination?
No, I don't think so, because Rhea
This
was
was
going
always
to
the
be
plan.
Rhea was going to be on the SmackDown side.
Yeah, but Io could have won King of the Ring, Queen of the Ring.
I can't recall off the top of my head.
She did win Queen of the Ring.
I think this. Yeah, she did win Queen of the Ring to get this shot with
Like,
Liv.
Liv's
She
whole
beat
booking-
Liv in the final.
Yeah, which is weird, right? Like, and I can't imagine was always the plan. Putting Liv in the tournament just so the challenger could beat her en route to challenging her again at SummerSlam. Like that seems like the type of booking that
You beat the
wouldn't feel like a
champion
first
in the
choice.
tournament, and then you get the title shot. It's not that crazy.
It's not that crazy, but it's not good. It's not
Well,
as good as I don't know.
I've been
like,
very like I think with Rhea being moved to SmackDown, the elimination of the Kabuki Warriors. Unfortunately, Io's in a group that has lost a lot of steam this year. This is one of the last year we were talking about, like, this is arguably the best wrestler on this WWE roster. And this year, I mean, when you couple IYO SKY, Jacob Fatu, Braun Breaker, like these are three performers that tell me they were hotter 6 months ago. And that they've cooled down dramatically 6 months into the year. Well, 8 months now into the year.
Yeah, Io for sure. And I'm ultimately like, you know, not to say like a title change would have necessarily changed my opinion on the feud itself, but it would have at least added maybe more of a significant moment. By the end of it, just with like another like successful defense, it kind of feels like this whole feud has been rather forgettable, you know, in that like
and it's all heels on Raw. It's like it's Judgment Day, it's Lyra, Bailey's out of the picture for the time being. And it just seems like SmackDown, like they have all these women. Like Blake Monroe is, I mean, another heel, but like they don't even have a role for her on SmackDown. She's just there. Jordan Grace has just vanished. And I mean, the list goes on. So Liv retains, and man, throughout the night, I'm all for, playing up your history and stuff. But they got this song, Fix Your Face, by MGK, our friend Machine Gun Kelly, and Fred Durst, over the shots of, like, snapshots of different SummerSlam moments. I swear I must have seen 40 of these photos throughout the night. They showed so many of these, and it was
I'm
only...
guessing this was the commercial break for Netflix, right?
They weren't even that long, though. It was, perhaps.
And this was just the cover over, like, the we'll be right back type of... like montage they usually give
I
us?
guess maybe. Yeah. It was just it was a lot of them.
Mark Henry, a lot of commercials.
A lot of commercials. That comes with the meal here. Mark Henry is showing, and throughout the night, first we get Mark Henry, then Sean Waltman, Dan Spivey, who was introduced by Michael Cole as a real badass, and Jimmy Hart. So yeah, we got Haku and Dan Spivey on back-to-back nights.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Maybe Dan Spivey can come back and manage a team.
Okay, maybe he gets the War Raiders.
He could have joined the Wyatt Six.
He could have. Might have fared better with old Whale in there. And Jimmy Hart, who I swear was just on Raw Monday night and got in his car and drove the extra miles from California to Minneapolis for SummerSlam weekend. The Usos and Jacob Fatu against LA Knight, Solo Sikoa, and Royce Keys. Presented, everyone. The Usos, brought to you by Gears of War, E-Day, as they came out with their Gears of War themed entrance. and they like 100% baby faces coming out here. These are like the coolest guys coming out. The crowd's going nuts for these three. Jacob Fatu's got this crazy wolf mask on as the werewolf. These guys, you could not convince me these were the heels in the match.
No, the whole build has been, I would say, pretty I don't know, confusing if you're looking for a side to cheer. But I mean, maybe they don't worry about it as long as, like, you know, people are reacting.
It's like they've turned Jay, but they're not going to give up that entrance and that music. Like, it's just too valuable, right. And we want that. We want the eating. So yes, Sikoa immediately strikes Jay, and then it's Sikoa calling for the encore, and they play it for him. I mean, completely ridiculous, but entertaining with it being Sikoa here, and this did get quite the pop. Sikoa starts to get cocky with Fatu and gets hit with the pop-up Samoan, so they attack Sikoa for a while. Royce gets the tag and hits the Ultima Spinebuster and delivers that to Jay. He had a struggle here with Jimmy on the turnbuckle, trying to spin him over into a power slam, and Jimmy was just like dead weight here, and Royce just, I mean, that's the guy to, if you're going to dead weight someone, he will eventually get you up and over, and he did here, but it was quite the challenge. Knight then gets in, and he was very over here. BFT gets stopped, and Jay hits the spear, and then they hit a suplex Uso splash combo onto LA Knight. Solo's in for the save with the spinning Solo. Everyone takes turns. Jacob Fatu hits an impaler onto Solo. Keys pulls down the straps, spine buster to Fatu, and he rolls out to the floor. So from there, Fatu runs into a power slam by Royce Keys into the timekeeper's box. So that takes Fatu out of the mix. Jay spears Knight. There's an Uso splash for a 2, and they call for the 1D, which is stopped with a Samoan spike to Jimmy, leading to Knight having Jay to himself for the BFT and pinning Jey Uso in 11 minutes. And Solo extends his arms to LA Knight, wants a hug. LA Knight obliges, and I mean, I thought from the start here that this would ultimately end with Solo in the Bloodline, but I think this babyface turn for Solo has just caught on something that it's like, this is the most interesting this guy has been, at least since his initial call up as the silent background player of the Bloodline, that it just feels like they're just going to run with this and keep Solo in this role, because this could have been a very easy win for the Bloodline and these three implode, but you know, baby faces go over, and it seems like Solo is going to be kept in this role.
Yeah, honestly, if not for Solo, I think like it would have been that much more challenging for this babyface side to, like, you know, be I think cheered over the Bloodline here. The match itself I found technically fine, but like overall pretty boring. You know, little in the way of surprise or novelty to really grip your attention. Even Jacob being in there, I found pretty mediocre.
I think Jacob has, I know it's like, oh, it's a long-term story and he's going to turn. Man, you've really iced this guy who was really hot a couple of months ago and feels like he has just been so neutered with this association as the underling to Roman that, I mean, you talk a lot about Braun Breaker. I look at Jacob Fatu equally. Like, these were two guys that at the beginning of the year were looked at as, here are your, like, yes, you have your big talent, but man, you've got this other class that are just ready to ascend those spots. And I'm not as keen on where Jacob and Braun Breaker have been placed.
I think more concerning, even though, is like Royce Keys' continued lack of reaction. You know, whenever he gets tagged in, you know, like, because they have invested like considerable airtime in him, I feel, at this point, and I think he should be a bit further along than he should. But he's also another one of those guys where I feel like they will just ultimately decide to turn and maybe let that, you know, garner a certain type of reaction. But as a babyface, I think they've introduced him fine, but I wouldn't necessarily say he's connected with anybody at all. Reactions to like his interactions with Jacob weren't, I thought, like that great either.
Even his entrance, like, it was pretty muted of everybody's entrance. It was Royce that was, I think he was the last one out, and it was, you know, not
he was the first. I think Knight was last.
Okay, Knight was last. Anyway,
yeah,
it doesn't matter.
But in the end, like, this certainly felt like a filler match. This was no different than something you would get on SmackDown. The wrestling was certainly not that special compared to what you would get on SmackDown. So They beat the baby faces win, and I look forward to hearing from LA Knight about how this will end the bloodline, which was certainly his aim. That
he was going to kill the bloodline in the 6-man so that they can't even be a factor in Roman's match with Seth Rollins. I think they're all still breathing. I think they can make it to Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, although Roman doesn't really have like run-ins now as part of this, like babyface run.
Okay, well, we'll see. The things that got over the most were Solo calling for the encore and the hug afterwards, which if that tells you what the audience is there for, like that's what they want the most.
Hugs
and songs.
Yeah.
We came to sing and we came here to hug.
Yeah.
Gunther against Nick Aldis. Okay, the most shocking thing here is that Nick Aldis came out to Morning Glory by Oasis.
Yeah.
I was shocked. I thought for sure it's like this has to be some crappy WWE cover. It's like no, that's the Gallaghers that they got. How often do they do this especially for like, no offense to Nick Aldis, but it's Nick Aldis. But good for him. He got quite the entrance.
How often do they have? I mean, they have music by real bands, of course, but like, how often would they pay this sort of premium for something that is widely known?
Okay, and what are the odds that we go midweek and this is no longer on Netflix?
Very good chance. Sure. I don't know what sort of rights.
I'm sure that this
it wouldn't make financial sense. Imagine clearing this with like, Mark Shapiro or Ari Emanuel. You want what?
Well, I'm surprised they did this just to begin with. I mean, unless there was
good ad rates. So you really want to drive those ratings.
Who usually gets this sort of treatment?
Punk.
It's Paul Levesque. Punk had to fucking renegotiate it into a contract like after being here for decades. Nobody gets this sort of thing upon debut. So what does it tell you? I think they in Nick Aldis, they clearly maybe want to invest some level into him. But secondly, I think they want to give him every benefit they could in order to make this feel like it's a can't lose match, or at least in terms of just like attraction.
Yeah. I kind of like the idea that we had the guy that's been in the company. We're finally going to give him his big match. He's going to come out to Oasis. He was really inspired by SummerSlam 1992. I was like, I'm watching Nigel McGuinness here. Like, this is the Nigel McGuinness story.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like right down to Oasis here. So my first observation here, first of all, Nick Aldis looks in tremendous condition. Gunther has, it's almost jarring to remember the size Gunther was, because now, dude, Aldis was so much bigger than Gunther. Gunther is he's got the physique now of a swimmer. He's just losing so much. He's leaned out to an incredible degree that I was just like, the GM here looks like he's just towering over, not towering, but he's just so much thicker than your former world champion here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Gunther goes to the Ryohei Oiwa playbook and goes for that headlock. And Wade mentions how his first match was against Nick Aldis, and they put over the SummerSlam 1992, a turning point in Nick Aldis's life. And Michael Cole, unlike the call on Friday, they got the terminology correct tonight, as Aldis went for the King's Lynn Cloverleaf, which is attempted early. And there we have Mickie James and son Donovan in the front row for Gunther to go talk trash to. And I thought actually that Mickie would maybe be more involved in this, but it was not it wasn't necessary to go above and beyond it. But you had the family there for that dynamic. And Gunther applies the sleeper, but Aldis breaks out of it, and he really does have the crowd with him here. It seemed like this was the most engaged they were to an actual wrestling match that wasn't reliant on spots to the crowd or doing songs and stuff. This was just they were into Nick Aldis as the babyface overcoming Gunther. So he gets out of the sleeper and he fights back. He hits the bulldog power slam, and then Aldis takes out Gunther's leg, hits him with a pair of elbows off the top, and applies the cloverleaf, which gets a surprisingly good reaction. And he pulls Gunther to the center, and this crowd, they were ready to just go nuts here that Aldis was going to pull this off, but it's broken. And he reverses it into it. There's a sleeper reversal by Aldis, then a Saito suplex by Gunther to break out of it, downward elbows, and gets the sleeper. And Aldis, he gets to his feet. You think he's going to be free, but is pulled back into the quicksand to the mat and taps at 11 minutes and 40 seconds. He didn't get to go out with a smile, but he did tap. And he did get like the hero spot afterward where Gunther leaves and Aldis is left in the middle of the ring as he is joined by Mickey and Donovan. And they gave him like a really big moment here. I hate that term moment, but that's what they did here for Aldis. And we can get into his handling, well, the angle that they did on the post show. But what did you think about the match and Nick Aldis's performance?
I found it to be, like many of the great or very good, I guess we could say, Nick Aldis matches that I've seen. Like it was a terrific old school style of match that was at once, I think hard hitting, but also like very simple in its storytelling. And I mean, this was Nick Aldis in the role of underdog against Gunther. It's sort of a classic style Gunther match, who he himself is a very old school type of heel. So I thought like in playing the underdog, I thought Aldis was tremendous, and I thought in the match he was able to show the best of what I've seen of him in the past, and that's technically strong work. In this case, it was very good selling too. And so I thought these two had really strong chemistry with each other. They booked this match to give Aldis enough fight for, I think, the level of athlete they've kind of established him as, in the build up to this. So it certainly doesn't come as any sort of like shock that like he would suddenly be competitive to this degree with Gunther. But it also like he didn't like kick out of a million finishers either. Like it was somewhat realistic in that, for Gunther, this was still a very decisive victory. But Aldis was just given just enough fight for Gunther to be impressed and for Gunther to earn that level of respect for him.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that Aldis looked very good in this match. Like, I didn't look at this as like some top tier Gunther match, but I thought for Aldis, I thought he performed really well. And I don't want to see this guy just become a regular, and they're obviously not going to be doing that. But you do have the ability to do like once a year, it's like the heel that pushes Nick Aldis to the edge, and you can do the occasional match with Nick Aldis. And we can just fast forward to the post show. Aldis was, he met with Paul Levesque and he said, "I'm a man of my word. I lost, so I'm handing in my letter of resignation as the GM." And Levesque said, "You did cross the line with Gunther, but so did he. You stood up for yourself and you did what we do in WWE. You settled it in the ring." And he tore up the letter of resignation and reinstated Nick Aldis as the GM, telling him to call it down the middle from now on. So he's back as the GM.
Yeah, interesting that they would, again, like invest so much into a SummerSlam, like I would say to one of the more heavily promoted matches, heading into this year's SummerSlam, so much into a guy who, I mean, essentially now seems like he'll be another part-timer on the roster. Now, that's not always a bad thing because like you can establish at this point that a Nick Aldis wrestling match feels like something special, right? But it's just interesting that they would maybe this is very unusual to me, that Paul, they would do this
on the press conference. And I got the sense this is not storyline, but he did say like, Nick was called on. He was called on short notice to do this, and I took that.
And why?
What do you mean? Why?
Like what were Gunther's original plans? Did something fall through? I
would imagine that Gunther had other plans. I think they did have other plans for Gunther, and this was probably not their first choice that Aldis was just called upon. And the way this is played out, like that would suggest like this, for whatever it was, this was a hole that was left, and Gunther needed someone, and they thought this is the best route to go. And because they're just like retconning this, and Aldis is right back to the old role now.
Interesting.
That's how I took that comment that Paul said at the press conference. That
maybe we'll find out on Unreal, okay, season 5 or whatever this will be. But it's all been
Gunther
really fascinating.
was supposed to face Bailey.
But at least I thought it made for a really fun and entertaining build towards this year's SummerSlam. Like this was probably one of my more anticipated matches, this year. And I think ultimately, like, again, maybe not a part of the greater Gunther title chase story, almost like a bit of a distraction from it, but I thought a pretty entertaining one.
So Aldis, he got the ovation. More shots in the crowd. We had Zach Brown busted open. Got some FaceTime here, and then the Bella Twins and Paige take on Fatal Influence. JC Jane came out, and her attire was an amalgamation of Shawn Michaels 1995 and China 1999 come together. Brie, who we will discuss in this match, starts off with the yes kicks on Fallon Henley, but then Reed stomps Brie's head on the steps, and it's followed by JC hitting a cannonball into Brie into the steps. And from this point on, Brie pretty much did not have the use of her right arm that she is holding for the whole rest of the match. And I say this completely understanding, like there was an injury here, because I was so positive that this was legit. She looked horrible the rest of this match when she had to do anything. Like she was basically just, she couldn't do anything. There was spots where people were just working around her, and it was like she had no business doing any contact, because this was just a very bad performance for Brie because she had no arm. And in the press conference after, I was glad somebody did ask about this. And yeah, they said like, it looks bad. She's been taken to the hospital for scans, and they're hoping it's not as bad as they fear, but it's like she had her arm. She could not do anything. She basically did nothing for the post-match angle that was obviously the big thing of here. So, I mean, this, unfortunately, it's like the timing of all this. Nikki comes back, and it looks like Brie is, at least the possibility is there that she could be out for some time.
The Bella Twins are as snake bitten as the Vision at this point. You know, one of them comes back, the other gets injured again. And I think you really feel bad for Brie in that. I think she's clearly put in a lot of work. Again, like in most of these matches, okay, just being completely unbiased, I think she's the worst wrestler on the roster. Okay, and that is, to me, just a fact. But she was even worse before that, and therefore I think she to me has clearly put in a lot of work into just even getting to the level that she's been at. So for all of it to kind of like head into this match where you know, she got injured, they, you know, had before like the big angle, and it resulted in maybe the worst performance of like she's, you know, her run thus far. It's rather unfortunate, but I'll also say like this was one of those, I never really wanted to like celebrate this so much because I don't think it should be great precedent, but this was an incredibly gutsy performance that I think you have to respect her for continuing. I mean, of course you ask, like, could she have just tagged out earlier and not have been involved in like all those other spots in the match? But again, you don't know exactly how injured she was. You don't know like how capable or how like.
Let's also remember, and this is one of the negatives, and it's like now with Unreal, it's like, you know how rigid this is built. Like the idea of like Brie should not have been in the rest of this match. She should have just been out. And in another era, it's just like Nikki and Paige are going to pick up the flack, and the five of them are going to work the rest of the match, and they'll adjust on the fly. It's like you take out a component here, and it's like everything falls apart. Because everything is so structured that a deviation from that is going to be a mess. But they tried to keep it on track, and it was a complete mess. I mean, you had one spot where JC grabbed Brie on her own. JC reversed her own move and threw herself out of the ring without Brie touching her. There was the heart attack spot, which was just, to me, this was the signal that like Brie was just not in this, because Nikki lifts up, I think it was Henley, for the heart attack, and Brie had not even started to run the ropes yet. So she starts to run as the opponent is lifted, and it just is like time stands still. She gets tripped, brought to the floor.
She was clearly in a lot of pain. And now, like
doing a heart attack was like she was in the position she was going to have to do the close. Well, I guess she was.
I don't think she was supposed to. I don't think she was supposed to do it anyway. So here's the thing: it's like I imagine it was the type of pain where, like, okay, on the one hand, yes, like me being out of this match might completely derail it and totally like force a pause in the middle for everybody to figure it out. It might also be the type of pain that just like it hurts, but I can gut through it. Like, you know, I can manage it. It just really sucks. I might not be able to pull off as much as I need to, but she also didn't have that much to pull off. Most of her match took place already prior to the injury, right? She had
it was pretty early way. Like it was like the first like 90 seconds that this happened.
But she was supposed to sell for the rest of the match anyway. She was building up to a hot tag. So like it, you know, the shoulder injury kind of worked for the story. Secondly, like it was supposed to be a heart attack tease. The biggest glaring thing was the Irish whip deal with JC that just totally fell apart.
Yes.
And of course the post-match angle. But I can understand like Brie feeling like she could get through the rest of it because it didn't really demand like maybe so much, you know?
Well, there's a rolling encore that misses Nikki. Paige then avoids a shot from Henley on the floor, turns around into the rolling encore as JC pins Paige in 7.5 minutes. It just was an awful match. Brie is just holding her arm here during the post-match, and the angle features Paige hugging the Bellas. They pose together, and then Nikki drills Brie, and Brie was limited to 2 little kicks, and it was all Nikki doing the attack here, yelling, "This is my house," as she hit Paige with the Rack Attack 2.0, and the Bellas exit here. So don't know if we will be seeing Brie in the near future, because this looked like something that, well, I mean, we'll see the extent of it, but it seemed like this would probably be a serious injury.
Yeah. I suppose like you could still do Nikki versus Paige as a feud going forward. You know, I do wonder though if Paige was supposed to bring in somebody else to like, you know, pair up with against the Bellas, and what would happen of that person if this was supposed to be a 2-on-2. But you could at least still do the 1-on-1. But you know, like to me, all the drama was in Brie's injury, right, and all the fallout from it. But the match, I thought itself like died in front of this crowd. You know, they just didn't really seem to care that much about the result of this anyway. You know, but ultimately, like you come out of this maybe with the most interest discussing the injury. You certainly feel bad for Brie. You feel bad for Nikki as well. And you hope that it's not too bad of an injury. I look forward to the Bella's podcast following this.
Oh, there's that silver lining. We go into our Street Fighter trailer. So get ready for this. And then we have Cody Rhodes' entrance, where we get the Street Fighter interface with like the 8-bit screen, the menu, and they choose Punk and Rhodes as the characters with the fight at the end of it. I actually thought this was the best part of the entrance. Was the actual
so cool
video game component. It was cool. But then out comes Cody to the Street Fighter music with his Guile mask.
The Guile theme, wasn't it? Wasn't this Guile?
Was it? Okay.
Was it the Street Fighter theme?
Things.
I don't know.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Thought it was a Guile theme.
How much would this go for?
Probably.
They have to be selling these, right? This
yeah.
WWE
and I would think
Capcom.
I would hope, like, you know, knowing Cody, that this would probably be some sort of charity thing. But who knows, dude? Like, yeah, it could just be, I don't know.
Okay. This will be great for Q4.
Q4, yeah.
All the sales can be recognized to prop up Q4. So he comes out to the Guile theme, and then it turns into his regular theme. CM Punk, what a contrast. We go from Guile to the Minnesota North Stars with number 20, Dino Ciccarelli, represented here for CM Punk with a custom North Stars jacket.
So I wonder if it was like a specific wrestler, like, because Cole happened to say it was 20 years for 20 years of CM Punk in the WWE.
Oh, okay. I just looked up number 20, and it was Dino Ciccarelli of the North Stars, but this was the 20th anniversary of his ECW debut, so that more than likely is the connection there.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we're getting Punk and Rhodes second from the top with Hell in a Cell going on last. Were you surprised by this?
Maybe not so much, you know, considering it's
on the
Brock,
way it ended.
it's Hell in a Cell.
I thought they made the right choice.
Yeah.
For how these two matches were going to end and for what they were doing, I thought they made the right call.
Yeah.
It starts off very slow, and it's just a very simple story of Punk going after Cody's shoulder and Cody's shoulder being injured and Punk's knee being injured. And I thought that like they were setting this up to be like your kind of classic world title style of match. And it was just like a straight up wrestling match. And it just felt like this crowd was like sitting on their hands. It was like, we just want to get to the GTSs and Crossroads and table breaks. And that was what brought them up. But I thought all of this stuff was like in the building of this. Like I was into this. How did you feel about the early portion? Yeah.
I found all of it very captivating. I like maybe Punk to me, like working over the arm, I didn't find as captivating yet, but like maybe seeing what they're going for once Cody sort of did his version of it. And I mean, all of it was, I thought very relevant and necessary. So I found it pretty captivating. Yeah.
Punk hits a top rope elbow drop and pretty early signals for the GTS, which is avoided with elbows. So it's Cody going for a top rope Cody cutter. And this was like the first big move of the match. And the crowd starts to pick up after being subdued for the early portion. And then we are introducing the GTS as it is stopped and Cody applies a figure 4 to the injured knee. But Punk gets to the rope and he puts on the Anaconda Vice. And Wade explains how this is a move that doesn't require Punk to use his legs.
It's also on Cody's bad arm, which the announcers didn't necessarily touch on, but
yeah,
all of it had thought put into it.
Yeah, it was all very well laid out, I thought.
Mm-hmm.
Punk stops an Alabama slam and goes back to the Anaconda Vice and then transitions to a jackknife cover. Cody bridges out of that and hits the crossroads for the most significant near fall thus far in the match. And as Cody gets laid out, Punk is on the top. And dude, the most glorious moonsault that I just want repeated every so often. I want to have this file saved on my desktop, okay? I've talked about the Punk elbow drop. Forget it. That's retired. It's now the Punk moonsault. What an ode to Terry Funk that this was.
This is about as perfect of a Terry Funk homage as maybe he was going for.
I never want to see Phil Brooks hit anything graceful. Like, this is the perfect CM Punk moonsault. It looked like if I tried a moonsault.
Yeah, I thought it was amazing, and you can even see Punk in the reaction to this. He was laughing at himself, holy shit, that was way worse than I thought it would be, and like between
did he try this one out a bunch of times on the mat, or do you think he did this one wrong?
I'm thinking he hasn't done a moonsault in like 20 years and just decided to try one tonight live at SummerSlam. Between this and Cody Rhodes going for that like Alabama slam, which he has done, I don't recall him spinning like 50 times prior to doing it. Like, that looked really silly. But I also kind of like
make him dizzy.
I kind of also enjoy the fact that these two on a stage as big as this weren't afraid to have a little fun and take a little risk. So like in some ways, this portion of the match felt like, I think, the type of like experimental atmosphere you might get from a house show, which I kind of appreciated,
So then Michael Cole tells us that this match could go all night. It won't. Punk then delivers these hard slaps and goes into the GTS, where I was basically just going to refer to him as Kenta if he continued this. The knee is hurt after hitting the GTS, so it's a delayed cover, can't get the fall, and they go to the floor. And Punk is sent into the steps, and Cody is struck by another GTS in the ring, grabs the rope to stop the count. And then Cody is placed onto the desk. And Punk looks at the turnbuckle, and I don't know about you, Way. All I could think about was I was just listing off the injuries he's had in the last 5 years. That's what was going through my head as he climbed. And then he gets to the top of this turnbuckle, and my God, was he unbalanced on the top of this turnbuckle. He never fully gained his balance. He just got his fingers in the air for the Savage thing, and then he launches himself.
So could be legit. Could also just be selling due to the knee. He has a bad leg. Either way, it worked perfectly.
It's fine. It's fine. He
should he be perfectly stable? Like, after like having his knee worked on all
But
match?
Then he comes down, and he is not taking this table on the hip. He's just going down like feet first here. And this actually, the announcers are very good here. Like, they put all the focus on this knee, the way he came down here. And I
wonder if that was I would consider like, I don't think you would like, it's not wrong to say that could have been intentional. It
could have been, but again, this is CM Punk with heights. So I don't take anything for granted. All I could say is that
it was the perfect landing considering the story.
It was, but dude, if you are 47-year-old CM Punk and you're thinking, I'm going to do, I would say you're out of your mind, man. Like, we can do something else with the knee, but crashes through the table. They go nuts here. And Cody has to just lift up Punk, roll him into the ring. And there's a top rope Cody cutter that misses Punk and takes out Charles Robinson, the old Cody cutter that missed. So he hits another GTS to Cody, collapses on the arms, and then he Cody just pops off and hits the crossroads, and Punk rolls out to the floor. Cody is left in the ring when old Randall runs into the ring. Complete babyface reaction, as you would expect. RKO to Cody. The whole place chants Randy. They just could not be happier to see him cost Cody the match. And Punk hits the final GTS, pinning Cody in 30 minutes and 10 seconds, retaining the undisputed WWE Championship and looking to send Cody and Randy off into their program that picks up where they left off at WrestleMania. I did think this was the match of the show overall.
Yeah. Mine too. I thought this match was excellent. And to me, how long was it, John?
30 minutes.
I was captivated for its entirety. And I thought they told a very simple and very well told story, each surrounding the other's injury. Cody, I thought, did a great job playing subtle heel here. It felt like this to me felt like a Cena in enemy territory type of performance from him. He clearly was, not the favorite heading into tonight, and I thought he effectively showed it on his face and in kind of a subtle way upon hearing that initial reaction to his announcement, for instance. But I also think like Cena, he didn't go too far to the point where he couldn't turn back into a babyface tomorrow night, which he will against Orton, you would think. But he did enough to allow the crowd to view Punk as the favorite, and Punk was fantastic. I thought his selling was outstanding, and his struggle in fighting through the injury, I thought was really well conveyed in pretty much every instance in the match. And they built to the spectacle. The big high spot of the match is this CM Punk diving elbow, and as ugly as it usually is, I thought it didn't really matter that he doesn't have picture perfect technique. What matters is that you're watching a guy pushing his body to the limit and trying something that he probably should not be trying at his age. All of that, I think, figures into how much you might like him, right? Or want to cheer for him to win. So there was something that I really enjoyed the storytelling in the match. I found it thoroughly enjoyable.
What kind of reaction do you expect Randy to have coming back? Usually after any of these absences, he comes back and he is super over with these crowds. Do you see it being I think this crowd is going to be it's going to be very pro Randy when he's on SmackDown.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess depends on the nature of the promo and the character, but I mean, you are kind of talking about Cody, who's just been paired off with CM Punk, and I would say has lost the crowd's favor in comparison. So if you want to carry that on and have Cody continue to play subtle heel against Randy, you could do that. But I think it depends on the type of story that they're
they're going to redo the WrestleMania build without Pat McAfee and go with what they originally wanted to do.
We'll see. Maybe it's time for Pat McAfee to come back.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, we've got football season coming up, so they got to wrap this one up if that's the case. I don't expect any more Pat, at least for the time being. Then we go to the panel. No audio. This has got to be the worst stretch WWE has had with audio problems.
Yeah, I skipped it. So they never fixed it.
Dude, they talked for a minute and there was no audio. I was like, can we go to a video package? And then they finally did. Oba Femi and Brock Lesnar closes the show. So the thing I found the most amazing here is that in the lead up to this match, they have made this is Brock's match. He is undefeated in Hell in a Cells. It's fine enough story. They put up the stat. His conquering record in Hell in a Cell, he is 2-0. He's had 2 matches in Hell in a Cell. That was the graphic that they had on the screen here. This is his 3rd Hell in a Cell match, it said. He is 2-0.
Oh my God, that's pathetic.
I was like, is this really his match?
Yeah.
So the introduction, Oba comes out, thunderous response, followed by Brock, and Heyman does his entrance, including that Brock is fighting out of the University of Minnesota just to pretty much gain easy reaction from the crowd, and obviously got him the babyface response here with that line. And the match starts, and Femi is going for body shots here, going with the Alistair Overeem game plan, and then misses in the corner and starts taking multiple German suplexes. Femi would eventually get a table. Breaking news here, everybody. Joining the Slim Jim tables in this match were the Wingstop chairs. Did you catch those?
Mm-hmm.
Branded chairs.
Wow. Sounds like a heart attack waiting to happen.
The Wingstop chairs. And Femi Irish whips Brock into this table and the steps, and Brock, his side is going to look like Yuto Ice's pectoral muscle did today on the G1. It was just all red and marked up, and Lesnar then uses the steps as a weapon, drilling Femi in the head, more Germans, and then, of course, Lesnar using the wing stop chair. There's a running uppercut by Oba, and he's caught on the shoulders of Lesnar, but stops the F5, hits a choke slam, and throws Lesnar in the air, hits the fall from grace, and Lesnar kicks out of the fall from grace. And Lesnar does the Undertaker sit-up right into Oba's face. Crowd goes nuts for this.
He did the laugh, too, which was a callback to the Taker match as well.
At SummerSlam.
Yeah.
So he sits up, hits the F5, Femi gets to his feet. Second F5, Femi gets to his feet. Third F5, but Femi kicks out at 2. We go to more chair shots. And then Brock, wouldn't you know it, this canvas has all these cuts around the perimeter. Wouldn't you know it? And they were there, and Brock just ripped open this canvas, removed the padding, and exposed the wood. And it was time. It was time to get to take this to another level. And so he tears up the ring and goes for a tombstone. Now, I'm sure that this idea, like, it's something for Brock to do. I would not have imagined it would get such a reaction that this was like the loudest reaction of the match when he went for the tombstone and did the Undertaker style pin with Oba kicking out, and Lesnar is stunned as Femi kicks out.
It's significant because we've never seen Brock like do this sort of homage spot before.
Oh, I get it. I wouldn't have expected it to get over so much as it did in this match, but it does.
But calls back to, the biggest win of Brock's career. I feel we could say, by now. And I mean, people just go crazy, I think, for any sort of reference to the past like this.
And Femi just powers to his feet, punches the chair away, fall from grace, and he wins it. 11 minutes and 40 seconds. And Cole immediately states, if this is the last time we see Lesnar in a WWE ring, what a memory he has left with us. And Femi is standing there alone. Cole proclaims him the next big thing is here. But then Brock returns to the ring, shakes hands with Oba, hugs him, and then addresses the crowd saying that Oba is the future, I am the past. And he never said he was retiring, but I mean, every bit of this suggested that this is it for Brock. Like, I don't know how much more you could end a career beyond, hey, we need someone and we're going to pay you a lot of money. And then Brock, maybe he's the smartest one here, that he is going to keep that one open. But it will be one of the grand mysteries why they did what they did at WrestleMania. Because you couldn't do that here. You just could not do it without it becoming a joke. So this was like the consolation of a retirement speech. And that's kind of how I took it. But I mean, it will remain to be seen. If there's a Saudi card, if there's a gap somewhere, I mean, Brock doing another match is certainly there. But this definitely felt like this should be the end for him.
I think he's back for Mania. I don't expect this guy's career to end at all. He's clearly paying homage to The Undertaker in more ways than just that tombstone pile driver. He did the whole thing at WrestleMania.
And it's Saudi Mania as well, which means Saudi money, and those two. I mean, the idea of those.
Do you need more reason than that if you're Brock Lesnar? Like,
oh my god, you do a match where if Undertaker wins, he gets his streak back.
Oh, you mean a Taker match?
It's like the Leon Slater gimmick where he loses his record in the history books. To me, it reads as if, much like Taker, I think Brock is just very indecisive about whether or not he should retire. And maybe during WrestleMania, maybe he legitimately thought that would be the end for him. And who knows what sort of negotiations, like whether or not money, I'm sure money always has to do with it. But there's something that tells me that this guy will probably come back if they pull up enough money, next to him. So I don't think they can do a boneyard match in Saudi Arabia.
Oh, yeah. Probably not.
I mean, that's probably the safe assumption would be to keep all doors open on a Brock return. Yeah. I guess I'm just watching these. It was like, it should be over for this guy at this point. Like, he is. Why? He looks exhausted in these matches. Like, absolutely.
He always does. He always sweats this much.
He does. And it's like, it's not like it's
can pull off
unconcerning.
a Brock Lesnar 10-minute sprint. Like, I think he still looks very capable of it. Like, I don't know, should he? Would that take away from, like, I don't know, the Oba Femi feud if he came back and was billed as, like, another main event? And I wonder, I don't know, but this company certainly, like, wants to use him as a
They
special
love their
attraction.
stars, and once you're in that grouping of like the big stars, Brock is one of those, and there's great financial incentive to keep the door open for more. But
and like twice a year, I guess in this year it's been 3 times, but 3 times a year to do this sort of sprint where like he gets to like lift the guy with a bunch of F5s and German suplex him like a bunch of times, maybe a tombstone here and there. Do that for 10 minutes and make like millions of dollars. I feel like that you're not really, it's not that much work considering how much money he's making. But I thought like as a Brock Lesnar style of match, in terms of it, I thought it was like satisfying. It certainly had the crowd reaction. But as a Hell in a Cell,
the idea of the match, like by the end of this, you certainly felt Oba is the big star. I don't think this was like this blowaway match, but it served the function of putting Oba front and center. I really like the idea of closing with Oba as opposed to had they done just like the Punk Cody thing. Like certainly you could have, it wouldn't like have ruined anything, but I like the fact that they made night one, it's all about Oba as our next star, because
agreed.
God, you go through all these names, it's like they need an Oba Femi. Like they need stars under 40, and this guy's under 30. This guy, like this industry is his oyster if he doesn't get hurt or have any problems that he encounters along the way. So I thought the match order served its function here, but I would say as a whole way, like maybe you feel differently.
Well, just on the match, I feel even though like by the end it felt satisfying, I felt it could have used more as a Hell in a Cell match. To me, there just wasn't enough brutality that I think like this type of match calls for.
It was Brock's match. It's
and
Brock's
I recognize
match.
like most Hells in a Cell in the past probably like, I mean, it's still building its like living off of the legacy of Mick Foley, up until this point, and very like no match has come close to that, right? But this match I think just could have used a bit more. And
but you know what? The more recent comparison is that Punk Drew McIntyre match, and like this came nowhere close to that. Like that was the one that night we were talking like this has rehabilitated Hell in a Cell after all these years of kind of breaking this match into a non-entity. Like this match certainly did not need the Hell in a Cell, but obviously they see there's still a cachet in billing it as Hell in a Cell. That
it needed it for the build. It needed it to make.
I guess, but when you don't
out.
deliver it, like it's sort of diminishing returns the next time. When like
next time they build a Hell in a Cell, it'll probably sell just as well because they can air Mick Foley falling off of it and elicit like it. Just there's a sort of like allure to it and a legend to it, right? But I think for the match, like it certainly could have used blood. I recognize I don't know, like they don't always do it. Maybe they didn't want either guy to bleed, who knows? But I think like I wish like the chaos of like the ring being pulled off and like the mat being pulled off, I wish that could have lasted a little bit longer. They could have teased a few more spots on it. Instead, like you just get that tombstone, you get one fall from grace that wasn't even on the exposed wood, and it just kind of ends. I would have loved to have them play in that chaos just a little bit more. But
it's anyway. Like the dangerous structure should have been the cell and not like, hey, look, it's wood. Yeah. Wood underneath the ring. That's a real
wood on the floor.
Oh, yeah. I looked at these two cards and I thought Saturday looked like the much superior one. I thought overall this under-delivered of what I expected for this show. I enjoyed Cody and Punk. And I really liked the handling of Oba Femi, but as a 3-hour show, I thought there was a lot. And Nick Aldis's performance, I would say those would be the strengths of the show. But I found, Brie Bella injury aside, like that match just completely fell apart. I just found this to be, it was the 6-man was something that I think could have easily been confused for a Raw main event. It did not reach to me the levels of like a big pay-per-view that I thought this night would be the superior of the two. And I'm kind of hoping night 2 is, I think it can at least equal this.
I thought 3 out of the 6 were like good matches. The other 3, like the EO Liv one, I thought was okay, like was fine, but like by the end I thought was rather forgettable. Aldis Gunther was a good match. Brock and Femi, maybe just add like for what your expectations are of like a Brock Lesnar type of sprint, I thought was a very satisfying one, although it could have been, made better use of the sell. I thought Cody and Punk was a great match. So 3 out of 6, like, is that a good grade, for a show? I wouldn't necessarily say so, no. But for a WWE like standards, that's kind of what we are expecting these days,
This is where I run into a difficulty that, like, you make the argument of like maybe you're gonna go thumbs in the middle. It was like I gave Redemption thumbs in the middle, so it's like these scales are so out of whack.
They're very different. Totally,
it's just
different.
Crazy that we would like. We need an entirely different ranking scale because this doesn't hold a candle. Like there was nothing in the league of any of those first 3 matches on the pay-per-view. There was nothing in the league of this show of Omega and Kevin Knight last weekend. It's completely different.
They're different companies with like different styles, especially like on the top end, right? Like Cody and Punk, just they're not going to wrestle that type of match in the WWE. But I thought they offered something like just as compelling, but in a very different way. So much of it, maybe like your grade a bit, maybe dependent on the expectations that you have going into it. To me, I kind of expected a 3 out of 6 show, right? So like I wasn't
like
so
combined, you have one great show.
So to me, like I wasn't so disappointed because I kind of expected this level of card going in, right? But if you're comparing it to AEW, yeah, you will probably be very disappointed.
I'm just going to go through the post show because there actually was some stuff here that I wanted to mention. We did the Nick Aldis bit, so he is reinstated. And Gunther came out. He did say he was impressed by Nick Aldis, but he wants to be the #1 contender. Punk was out, and Punk was just, dude, this was like IWA Mid-South CM Punk on the desk. He was asked, did you have any feelings about not being in the main event? And Punk was like, yeah, I definitely did have some feelings about that. He said, there's the main event, and there's the match that goes on last. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm always the main event. But then he says, I'm not going to go into all of that stuff. I'm beyond that in my career. He said he's willing to take out Randy. I'll take out his dad. I'll take out his mother. I'm not a pussy, he said. He was just saying, just going on and on here about whoever's next can step up. And then we go to Paul and the return of the press conferences, the things that he had decreed that, this is not what we're about, being in these stuffy rooms with no energy. Well, now they're back to stuffy rooms with no energy. Very complimentary of Minnesota Sports and Events for bringing SummerSlam here. He was asked about Nick Aldis wrestling again. It's like, never say never. He did not say that Lesnar's retired, but he did state that, his line about being in the past, that's a pretty strong statement from Brock. And he was kind of dancing around the idea of, never say never. But I mean, he was kind of indicating that that would be a good ending for Brock. This was hilarious. There was a question asked about IYO and Liv opening the show and putting them in that position. And Paul just gets on. This was like the question to irk Paul. He's like, fans have this narrative about where you're placed and what that means and getting all bent out of shape over it. It's like a concert. You come out hot and you take them on a ride and you close hard, big and that's what we do. And I only find it amazing because not 20 minutes before, CM Punk was on the table saying, yeah, I do have a lot of feelings about not going on last. But anyway. And then he did confirm Brie being injured, that she was taken to the hospital, and just said, it seems bad, but we have to get the results. And the last thing, you do not have to see this press conference. The last 10 minutes, they had Femi on the desk outside with the fans. He was awesome. He was really good. It is so evident the confidence this guy has in himself that, listen, I'm a great promo. I'm a great wrestler. I am the guy. There is no question. I am the guy. In some ways, if you just hear it, it sounds like heelish, but man, he's just, they really have something with this guy. I thought this was a very good segment that he did on the desk and just playing off the people. He was complimentary toward Brock. He even took some shots at CM Punk, and the crowd got into that. To me, the major question is what the rest of the year looks like for Femi.
Yeah, like certainly, they have built him as the next guy, and that would mean the follow up with him outside of Brock Lesnar is we're just starting to see that because he's been attached to Brock Lesnar pretty much the entire way. Even when he's not attached to Brock Lesnar, he was kind of attached to Brock Lesnar because this feud was lingering and it was always going to be his destination for SummerSlam. So, how big of an attraction will he feel now that Brock Lesnar isn't on the other side? And I think that would mean you would have to pair him against similarly large names. You can't pair him with an Austin Theory. You can't pair him with like just anybody, right? In order to carry on this momentum, you got to be eyeing towards Roman. If not Roman, then Punk on the other side, right, on SmackDown. But Gunther is there too. So like coming out of the show, you got Gunther, you've got Femi as like your two guys headed, like your two monsters headed towards the championship, and I think at least one of them should be confirmed like very soon. I'm talking like by Survivor Series.
You think putting Oba with one of the champions by Survivor Series, not waiting till
So
Mania?
either him or Gunther. I could see either one. I mean, Gunther Punk seems like a more natural path, and I think like they've already teased Roman and Oba is. Like, can they wait until WrestleMania for that? Like, can you wait until WrestleMania to crown Oba Femi? I think that's too long.
That's the ideal time, but I think that's really tough
It's
because
too long.
I mean you have to detour him for at least until Rumble, and that's a ways away. So
They also need to do something about that whole King of the Ring explanation. That's just fucking bullshit.
it never happens. He's a King of the Ring winner way, and he's 1-0 in Hell in a Cell now. So tomorrow night, it is Roman Reigns and Seth for the World Heavyweight Championship, Penta and Chad Gable for the Intercontinental title, Tiffany Stratton, Jade Cargill, Chelsea Green, Charlotte Flair, Lash Legend in the ladder match to crown the interim Women's Championship and presumably set up a match with Rhea Ripley, Danhausen and Dominic Mysterio in the Human Monies on a pole match, Sami Zayn against Finn Balor, and Trick Williams against Baron Corbin for the United States Championship. I will throw this one out to you, Wade, that we got Randy Orton tonight. Do you expect Kevin Owens tomorrow night?
Oh, Kevin Owens. Yeah, sure, maybe. But yeah, okay. I'll say yes. How about you?
I think so. I think he's ready. And
Does he so what he cost Sammy? Or help Sammy?
I don't know. I think he could have a big spot on the show for sure.
I think but
we'll see. I don't have anything confirmed, but we will see what happens. In terms of Reigns and Rollins, do you expect a Reigns title retention in this one?
I do. I think it just there are bigger matches to be made with Roman. You barely scratched the surface yet.
Yeah, this is a card that, I mean, it certainly does not have, to me, the depth on paper of night one. We will see. This ladder match, I don't know what to expect in this ladder match. There are a lot of moving parts in the various participants in this match.
It could be awful, or it could like be spectacular in some ways. It could really go either way. You expect Finn and Sammy to be a very good, technical, exciting match. Gable and Penta, I think you expect that out of them as well. I think Reigns and Rollins, you probably expect a really strong storytelling match. Like I have high expectations for those one in terms of like spectacle and just like gimmickry. Danhausen and Dom, I think like to me, I will be grading it based off of its creativity and how surprising they can maybe make an audience feel what they might deliver. So those matches have potential. I have zero interest in Trick Williams versus Baron Corbin. That to me is
we discussed this last night, me and Neil, that like for Baron to come back and lose this, it almost like just renders him unnecessary right off the bat. Like, could you see a title change here?
No, I really can't. I think they're bringing back guys like Corbin, like a Zack Ryder, just to kind of like be guys that, can take losses in the lead up. Like maybe he'll touch the Danhausen's machine and like revert back to broke ass Corbin or something at some point. But I think he's just there to like essentially kind of play jobber like for the younger guys. I would like to think so. Like if they did the title switch, I think that would be crazy.
I have high hopes for Penta and Chad Gable. I think Gable should win, and I think that could be very good. So that's coming up on Sunday. We'll be back around the same time tomorrow night, and you want to finish off with some feedback?
Sure, let's do it.
Okay, I will start things off, and we're going to go, oh my goodness, Brandon from New Jersey. Not often that he sits down to do some typing. A fun show. Had an awesome time with my palas. Miss talking to you. Been a minute since we spoke. Punk really turning back the hands of time by choosing to be gamma radiated. Love the soloist babyface.
He was never this big when he was younger. Okay, he was definitely much more like average human when he was younger. This is the biggest he's looked.
The Bellas, what a heel turn. Sickens me. Nick Aldis looked blown up during that match, but hey, he did what he had to do. Hope he got the NXT contract. My question to you, who would you think would have a better time with Sydney Sweeney or Donna? Who would you have a better time with, Sydney Sweeney or Donna Mills?
I don't even know who Donna Mills is. Who's that?
Donna Mills, was she not the... I want to make sure I have this one right. Donna Mills.
Donna Mills.
American actress. Yeah. Okay. Brandon's a great phone call. Less on feedback. So let's move it up. Yeah. She's 85 years old and she's open-minded on her OnlyFans account. This TMZ headline reads.
Oh,
Knott's Landing star joins OnlyFans at the age of 85 as of a day ago. So.
Oh, good for her.
Congrats, Donna.
Cool.
Donna Mills. So we know who Brandon's interested in. He's a big fan of the seniors.
Yeah. Cool.
Okay.
Thank you. Let's go to Matt, who says, not bad matches on this night one, but nothing will top the impact, physicality, and violence of the Hell in a Cell. I'm okay. Yeah, I thought there could have been more violence, but maybe like I wouldn't argue that so much if somebody felt that was enough. Watching Nick Aldis in his first WWE match was pretty cool. He looked like he would fit right in on their roster if they kept him wrestling. Is there a reason or story why he never got into WWE over the last 10 to 20 years? He looks like everything Vince McMahon would have loved to sign to a contract. What do you think, John?
I mean, it's not like he's like, he's, I think 28. They signed him like 3 years ago. So like 25. It's not like he was that old, but he was, he's a big track star, was, wrestling was not necessarily, I guess, on his radar at that point. He just went to like a tryout, I think it was, and they recruited him, as I recall. But yeah.
Sorry, are you talking about Nick Aldis?
I thought you were asking about Femi. Sorry.
No, dude.
Oh, about Nick Aldis.
I'm like, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, he's asking why the WWE never signed him 10 to 20 years ago.
Sorry, I'm really off here. I totally thought this was about Femi.
You're thinking about Donna Mills.
Yeah. Nick Aldis, I mean, they didn't show any interest in him when he became available. Like after TNA, he had all those years in the NWA. Like he was there, and I think he was interested in coming in, but they just repeatedly didn't show that interest.
10 to 20 years ago, what was really his body of work? Like we're talking about Magnus, in TNA. And was that an impressive enough run to like inspire like WWE to want to give him like, any sort of considerable
I mean,
push?
by the end of the TNA run, it was like he had his run with the belt. I was kind of surprised they didn't take a chance on him, especially during the Levesque run NXT era, but it was just, he was not someone that they were interested in.
Number one, like you're talking about a time when like guys who went through TNA kind of had that stench to them that I don't think they really wanted. Number two, I feel like there are kind of like many guys like him that maybe they opted to choose instead of, Nick Aldis. He came in a very unconventional way, came in as a GM, and I think probably over the years impressed enough just as a dependable person on the microphone, maybe just behind the scenes too, that they needed this. I would really love to know maybe the behind the scenes of like how all this was done. But anyway, he says the Hell in a Cell was pretty fun. Watching that physicality was pretty cool and felt like we turned back the clock. I know we don't like unprotected headshots, but Lesnar definitely sent 2 to 3 high impact stare shots to Femi. That is true. Those were really high impact. I just, again, like I thought it could have been really underscored with blood. I think that would have just like changed so much. But anyway, I'm shocked those stare shots didn't open Femi up. They gave Femi the win, but gave Lesnar 85% of the offense in that match. Have to believe that's his last match after the ode to The Undertaker. They gave the win to the right guy.
Could you imagine if they went the other way with Lesnar? Like that would have been confirmation Vince is back.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Jeremy in Texas, when WWE was putting the match order together for tonight, I picture Paul Levesque on the stadium floor dropping F-bombs left and right. Then he hears a mysterious voice from above. The Cell. The Cell speaking in its booming voice and says CM Punk as WWE champion does not main event the big shows. Tonight, I go on last. Considering the finishes of the WWE title match in the Hell in a Cell, it made sense. Overall, I thought it was a fine show. Aldis looked good, and Oasis entrance music was a nice touch. A lot of what we saw from Femi tonight seemed very Ultimate Warrior-like. I don't love seeing Femi take it that far. If the Warrior is influencing his style, I find it a bit too over the top. What do you think? I see, like, certainly, like what, he shakes the ropes? Like, I don't know. I sense this is a
set, maybe.
The moveset. I mean, this guy doesn't have the most varied offense, but I see him as having a lot more tools than the Ultimate Warrior, starting with promos. And I think I see a lot more upside with Femi overall.
Just trying to think about Femi cutting like a warrior style promo. Yeah, I certainly don't feel that way right now. Like I mean, you might think about the Ultimate Warrior negatively.
If they put him into it, like tonight, they kept this match to 12 minutes. And that might be more of a consideration for Brock than Oba. But over this next year, we are going to have to see Oba doing longer matches. And I hope they don't get into that trap that because you're a main eventer, you have to go 20, 25 minutes. Like, not everybody has. This match would not have benefited by going 20 minutes between these two.
Agreed. At the same time, though, do you want to like just limit? Like, are we committing to Femi as a Brock Lesnar style of wrestler, or should
there's a happy medium? There's a happy medium. I'm not saying this guy has to be 6 minutes and just win your matches like that. At the same time, like going out there and doing 25, like that does no favors if he can't go out and do a compelling 25-minute match, and it kind of chips away at the interest.
Let's go to. Sorry.
You feel free to edit this one down because this is like a small book.
Oh, this is way too long.
Bix has posted this whole thing on his Blue Sky, and it's on our forum. But you can
what is the gist of it?
Well, I haven't read it.
He says, look, I know WWE isn't for me anymore, but I still find it interesting to drop in for the biggest shows, and I'm flabbergasted by what I watch. The level of craft and fundamentals in the in-ring work has completely nosedived across the card to a degree that shocked me. The house style has always had issues and been an inferior style of wrestling to most other styles, but it was still competently executed by solid professionals. Triple H might have been boring, but he was still a very solid professional with great footwork and ring positioning. Somebody like Coco Ware might have been ruined as a performer by having his prime wasted, but the problem was him being booked as a prelim guy because he was deemed too small. And he still looked like a great wrestler when given the chance. This isn't that. Liv Morgan might be the worst wrestler in the world. A mess of muppety footwork, obvious feeding, and taking forever to set up moves, and she's a world champion on Raw. I don't think she was always this bad, was she? This isn't just me dropping in and realizing she was worse than I used to think, is it? So I would love to continue. John, do you want to read any more?
Let's get his thoughts here on the on the plus side. Punk and Cody felt like a pro wrestling match accidentally broke out in the middle of SummerSlam. Both guys clearly take pride in their craft, solid fundamentals, and were making a point of avoiding showing daylight in their strikes or holds. It felt like a contest. Anything that got messed up was just from Punk and Charles Robinson being old and beat up. He goes on to state, overall, there were actually more things I enjoyed than I expected there to be on the show, but the bad was so bad and so ever-present that it was baffling. This goes way beyond having a house style. Gunther used to be able to still be Walter within the WWE house style. Jacob Fatu should easily still be able to be Jacob Fatu in the WWE style. LA Knight was never great in the ring, but he was a competent professional. Liv Morgan was never very good, but was able to make what she had work in the WWE style presentation. They're all tripping over their own feet while having matches that look like play fighting. It really is baby soft, baby brained, baby shit wrestling in a way that it's never been before. How and why this is happening to such a profound degree, though, outside of maybe struggling with the sponsored decals on the mat, which could genuinely be contributing, I have no idea. Signed, a satisfied viewer, David Bixenspan, after SummerSlam 2026.
Yeah, I guess I'm just curious how often like Bix drops into WWE. He says like the biggest shows, and like I don't know, like did you not have the same reaction to WrestleMania, like or last year's SummerSlam, or like it's the same as all that?
Listen, it's a totally different like system that WWE is going to run, and if you are taking in like a steady diet of non-WWE, you're going to come in and it's like this is it is like the how many performers that we have seen that they get out of WWE and it's like we're blown away of seeing them in a different system. It's like, oh, they were capable of this. And like for a lot of that, it's trained out of you in WWE. Like they have their system that they're following. It's like their matches are structured around a very different concept where it's like the big moments are like your big trademark spots to the crowd that they're going to react to, that they're like, look at what gets the biggest reactions and what gets the little. Like you and I were really, and it seems like a lot of people were into Punk and Cody, but it's like that crowd just felt like, man, when do we get to all the fireworks in the match? And it's like you've almost trained your audience out of just what like the actual wrestling portion is. Like that's not necessarily what they're selling you. They're selling you like these, couple touchstones in a match that you recognize, that you cheer for, that are audience engaging, near falls, trading finishers, and boom, you go home at the end as well. Let's go to Jesse from the 6. Shout out the Minnesota North Stars. Shout out the Norris Division. Shout out Dino Cicerelli. Shout out Poison Rana watch parties at the National at the Well. I had a great time. There are still tickets available for tomorrow. I think we're going to have to send an invoice to Poison Rana for that ad. But yes, the Poison Rana crew was at the Well, at the National at the Well on Saturday night, and they will be back Sunday night for SummerSlam watch party.
Mm-hmm. Let's go to Luke, who says, the worst part of the night was trying to authenticate my YouTube TV with ESPN. Took me 45 minutes to realize it just wasn't going to work, so I had to create a different account with a free trial. At least I was then able to skip through commercials. Fun night of wrestling. It feels like every 2026 WWE pay-per-view is 3 out of 5 stars. The physicality of the main event is what stood out. Punk Cody was a solid first chapter. Great gear for Punk. Never thought I'd see a GTS out of a moonsault. Impressive. I actually really enjoyed the last 5 minutes of Liv and IYO. Hated seeing IYO lose. I thought Michael Cole was horrific, particularly during the Punk table spot. Did you guys know he landed on his knees?
Michael Cole doesn't want you to miss any detail of the match. He wants to make sure you digest every little piece, other than the Anaconda Vice targeting the injured arm.
To some, it was too obvious of a call. To some, maybe it was just right. To some, maybe it wasn't obvious enough. Like it's kind of hard to say. There are some moments that I wish he kind of pointed out more, like that I think went unnoticed, right? So I also don't disagree that like at times he could certainly be horrific. I think like over the past like year, he's kind of shown some great blemishes in his work that leave a lot to be desired. But like in this particular moment, like, is this to me an example of it? That's really subjective.
Last one is from Anthony. So it's true that Brie Bella injured her shoulder right as her sister returned, reunited as the Bella twins, and took out Paige. Damn, bad luck to her, but I guess a Nikki Paige feud should
pair up now, Nikki and Paige.
They were like, okay, we got a little heated on Saturday.
Yeah.
Let's sit down. Let's talk this one over. Yeah. And we can join for the tag titles. Should be easier to build a program rather than Paige finding someone else to tag against the Bellas. Alas, it seems tonight I was denied, and he has a photo here of the Magnus victory.
It's certainly easy to build up, but I mean, ultimately, you're talking about a feud between two people that are at this point like on their second careers, right? The whole effect of having Paige team up with somebody against the Bellas would have been ideally to lift somebody else up to that level, and you might be losing that spot now, right? Or at least they kind of have to get to that spot in a very different way.
I have no idea if that was if this would have been the person, but like Tatum Paxley could have been like that could have been her spot maybe of just throwing out ideas for Paige, right. And if like the domino effect, it could affect that because there really is not a need for Paige to have backup if Brie's going to be gone for a bunch of months as well. So anyway, that was the end of night one of SummerSlam. So thanks to everyone for joining us. Do hit the subscribe button, and if you enjoy what you have heard tonight, not only are we back tomorrow night, but we are here following Raw, following Dynamite, following SmackDown. Best way to support Post Wrestling and catch all of our shows is postwrestlingcafe.com. $8 gets you in the door. That gives you a month's access with many shows per week. If you sign up now, it includes all of our G1 Climax podcasts as we are at the midway point, and we'll be taking you through the finals with shows covering each and every match, including today's show that had some dreadful stuff on the undercard of the G1. Karen Peterson and Kate from Montreal, they will be covering that show, which will be out Monday morning. And I also want to recommend that everyone go back to the latest Rewind Away, where Wei Ting and Bruce Lord encapsulated the career of Akira Hokuto, going through many of her classic matches. A great retrospective here on, one of the finest female performers in wrestling history.
Thanks, John. Yeah, like a great excuse to dig into, maybe for me, like a blind spot, but for Bruce, this was like certainly a passion discussion for him. And there are links to all of these matches that you can watch for free in the show description.
So check out that, again, postwrestlingcafe.com, and all of our coverage up at postwrestling.com is there. So thanks to everyone for joining us. We'll be speaking with you Sunday night after night 2 of SummerSlam.